Everton are back. Preseason is about to begin tomorrow with a friendly match against Dundee United in David Moyes' Scotland. What kind of preseason are we all expecting? I personally think this is one of the more intriguing, interesting, but also more important preseasons we've had in a long time. Not just for Everton to start a season prepared for a change, because I don't know how many years we've had absolutely no cohesion, no momentum going into the season. But no, I think it's more important because one of Everton's, if not the biggest assets, lies not so much in what we know, but in the unknown, in Everton's unrealized potential. This club has several exciting young players who have been in an Everton shirt for at least a year or 6 months, and we haven't seen a lot of yet. So there's so many, so many things we haven't yet seen that promise to be potentially exciting. And I think this preseason is as good of an opportunity for them to remind us or give us a glimpse of that potential. This preseason will be extremely important for several young players, and I will do a series of videos where I look at 8 young players and I will monitor them in more depth. We will look at very young players. Tyler Dibling, I will start with him. Tariq George, Adam Asnu, and Everton's very own Harrison Armstrong. And then we look at slightly more mature young players that I will still consider young players though. These will be Merlin Röhl, my favorite, my fellow German, Tim Irukbunen, Tierno Barry, Hayden Hackney, the new midfielder came over from Middlesbrough, who just turned 24. These 8 young players will be the ones I will focus on the most. And they will also be one of the reasons why I'm pretty excited about the preseason. Normally, it can be pretty boring affair, right? Players resting, kind of going through the motions. But and this is what I claim, I think and I hope, especially these 8 young players, but Everton in general, I want them to take this preseason seriously. I want them to play these games with intent and energy. Of course, we don't want anybody to get injured, but the way the previous season panned out, I think Everton are almost in need to use this preseason to show the potential of our young players. I think Everton should treat the preseason, and I'm making a comparison to the NBA basketball, they should treat this preseason more like summer league than the actual preseason. Meaning, in the NBA during summer league, you have the role players and the up and coming young players who are at the fringes of the squad. They actually play pretty competitive games uh, during the summer, whereas like the main starters and the main role players are rested during the summer. And then you have a little bit of a preseason before the season starts. But the summer league tends to be the more intensive games. I want Everton to go into these games and play with intent, play to win, and play them like use them as a realistic um, measure for where they are. So today we will begin this series with Tyler Dibling. Tyler Dibling. Why start with him? Well, first of all, Tyler Dibling arguably has the highest ceiling out of all of these 8. He's not yet the best out of them, but I think he has the highest potential. And I think Everton also feel like that because they paid the biggest amount of money for him, nearly 40 million euros, according to Transfer Market last season. He is there with the biggest potential, and as a result, also the player where potential and reality shows the biggest discrepancy. Because let's be honest, his last season was pretty terrible. It couldn't have gone much worse for him. He didn't really show anything, did he? I think he played less than 400 minutes, had a few England spells at least, but he was no factor at all. No goal, no assist, no real momentum, no movements, anything to cling on to. So it was more or less a wasted season for him in terms of actual on the pitch performance. Someone at the club trying to save face will tell you, yeah, he trained, he got used to Premier League training ground, but no, for me, that was a terrible season for him. And I don't mean him personally. It's not his personal fault, but from a club's perspective, from a player of that value who you paid that much for, that is a pretty disappointing outcome. Thankfully, he's still very young. He just turned 20. So, what we have to cling on to, and hopefully this preseason will give us more of that, we have to almost remember who Tyler Dibling, the player we bought, is. Let's remember in 24-25, he played pretty much a full season as right winger for a Premier League team in Southampton as an 18-year-old kid. So he has already been a pretty established, for a talent of that age, a pretty established player when we bought him. It's not like a player where you need to start loaning him out to see what he's about. We already had proof that he can play at that stage, and he can still play at that stage. They also saw immense potential. You simply something you can see with your own eyes when you see the footage of Tyler Dibling during his Southampton season. I will try to describe what I see, what type of player I see in him. I think on the one hand, he is a typically fearless young winger, someone who is not afraid to take on players. And at the same time, he's also I would say, elegant type of player who has a very good playmaking ability. So he combines two things you absolutely want in an offensive, attack minded player. He can be direct, he likes to take people on, and he's not afraid to do so. But he can also be creative, be a playmaker. Both things Everton desperately need. What stood out to me as one of his most visually impressive characteristics, his acceleration. Maybe he's not the fastest player for a winger, but he has incredible acceleration. So his first step is explosive enough, similar kind of to Tyreek George, explosive enough to actually blow by Premier League defenders. And I think that is extremely important. When you buy wingers or technically gifted players from foreign leagues, there's always that doubt, will they be able to have enough power in their move to actually get by a physical Premier League defender? Dibling has already shown that. So we have acceleration. And related to that, something I also really like about his game, from what I saw, is that he plays not just at one pace. He is able to play at multiple levels of speed. Or to put it in a more poetic way, he's able to manipulate pace. I think, again, that's like not something you can easily learn, but I feel like it comes natural to him. He can either explode and blow by a defender, or he can be static and play a killer through ball when the defense is resting. So he has a very interesting skill set, an interesting package, or a term that I really like that I have never really heard being used in the context of football. He he possesses an interesting way of role compression. He can be both a playmaker and a direct attacker. He combines two roles you kind of want in an offensive player, which could be extremely valuable to have on the right wing. So let me also say, in fairness, what I think from what I've seen, what Dibling probably is not. he's probably not going to be the most prolific scorer. I don't know if he will ever be in his best a winger that scores double digits in terms of goals. I don't see him so far. From what I've checked, he hasn't had that many meaningful touches in the box. Most of his highlights come from way, much deeper. He is not the type of winger in a way that he will create a lot of width for you. A winger that mainly stays on the outside, on the touch line, therefore allowing the midfield players to have more space. Like I think he's not the dream winger of someone like Guardiola. We know that from Grealish, right? Under Guardiola, Grealish was really asked to stay out, to stay on the touchline for tactical reason to create more space in the middle, which in many people's view has limited Grealish's game in a way that he's no longer the best version of himself. Many would say the Aston Villa Jack Grealish was probably the best Jack Grealish we've ever seen. So I think Tyler Dibling is not that type of winger that Guardiola wants, someone who stays mainly outside and then uh, thereby creating a space in the middle. I think Tyler Dibling is also someone who likes to go in the middle. He prefers the half spaces. I see him as a winger whose initial positions where he takes up the ball, where he has most of his movements, are deeper, maybe between slightly behind the halfway line and the beginning of the final third. And he is someone who tends, I would say, to also drift inside. That is where I see him have his key actions and where I think he will be the most effective. So now let me move on to what I think needs to change. The first thing I think is a tactical change. And that is not on Dibling, but that is mainly on the coach or the coaching staff. If it is true that Dibling is a player who likes to start from a rather deep deep position, who's not very far up front, who likes to take the ball just behind the halfway line, and is someone who likes to drift inside, which is where he'll be most effective, then he, in my opinion, definitely needs right back support. Someone, an overlapping right back, an attack minded right back that will give him the outside option as well, that will create a factor on the outside that teams cannot make the middle of the pitch compact and thereby more or less take any options that Dibling has. With Jake O'Brien as his support, I will claim we will it will be very hard for me to see Dibling coming into his own and flourishing as a player. He, in my opinion, will be like the whole team. The whole team will benefit from having a natural right back who also offers offensive, uh, regular offensive output. But Dibling, maybe in terms of a position, in terms of one player, might almost benefit the most. Because the way I envision it, that will allow his most natural game, which is obviously where we want him to be, to flourish. How have we been playing him so far? I would say Moyes so far has more or less asked Dibling to play the right wing like Ilman and Jai has played it. Meaning, Dibling has so far mostly been in positions with the back to the defenders and without meaningful right wing support. Again, he has been playing most, I think, together with Jake O'Brien. Njai is effective in that way because we all know that Njai is one of the best players probably in the whole Premier League with the back against the defender. He's super good at twisting and turning and changing direction in an instant and creating offense with his back against the defender. And also, he as a right winger is more suited to playing with O'Brien because on the right side, unlike on the left side, he is able to create quite a bit of width. he's able to stay quite far outside and be effective, also not just cutting inside, but going outside as well. And he has also been scoring goals as a right winger. He has been a threat in the box when the ball was on our left side. So I think more or less Dibling has been asked to play like that when his skill set is not that. So tactically, we need to apply the same logic most Evertonians are familiar with Beto. We need to play Dibling in a way that plays to his strength. We need to utilize him in the way he feels comfortable. He plays in his position, but we don't play him in the way he naturally interprets his position. With Beto, we all know it. Beto came as a kind of insurance for an injury of Calvert Lewin. But Beto is not Calvert Lewin. Yes, he's a big, tall number nine, but he interprets that role completely differently. Calvert Lewin's strength were hold up play. He liked to face our own players, have the back against the defenders, and he was always an outlet, which was very, very important for Sean Dyche's Everton in particular, where we didn't have many, let's say, creative options in the middle. So mostly we went for the long ball to Calvert Lewin. And when Beto was asked to play like Calvert Lewin, he mostly looked terrible. But then we found, due to an injury of Calvert Lewin, that Beto has strength. He is good when he can run in behind. He's someone who likes to wait at the shoulders of the defenders and chase balls in behind. Then he can then he can unfold his skill set, which is being an absolute pest, being absolutely using his body extremely well, and also finishing. I think last season he also missed many big chances, but he was definitely the better finisher than Calvert Lewin. And he still is a decent finisher. So the club learned, and then for whatever reason unlearned last season, that we need to play better to his strength. It was especially effective with Alcaraz. I will never understand why we never used that combo again last season. That same logic applies to Tyler Dibling. Create an environment where Dibling can be his natural self, and I think we will have much more joy watching. Due to the lack of options at right back, I think I see no other way than we need to sign a right back. And what type of right back we need? We've been rumored, there have been a couple of names circulating. I think we should go more for the Norton Coffee type of right back than someone like Rico Lewis. Because we need pacey right back who constantly bombs down the flank. Not, I think Rico Lewis would be more like maybe a technically better version of Mikolenko on the right. A little bit more defensive minded and someone who also played midfield. So I will assume has like a natural midfielder type of game to him as well, which I think will not benefit Everton at the moment, especially not Dibling. I want someone who's like running up and down the wing, constantly offering support on the right side and running in behind. So be that the cheaper version, Norton Coffee, or I think Doué and Bellanova, these are the names that have been rumored more, more or less fulfill that archetype. What needs to change? Number two. And the tactical thing is already on Moyes, but number two is even more on him. And I will call that man management. Moyes' man management of Dibling in particular, Dibling and Asnu, but young players in general last season has been terrible. Actually pathetic. I hope in the season review presentation, in the review, that was the biggest flaw, the biggest bullet point on the negatives. How he handled these young guys last season was actually disgusting. There was like, he created so little opportunities for these young players. I don't care how you do it, but after one full season, we shouldn't be in the position where we're in now. Most of us don't even know what these kids are about. Moyes has to find a way to create way more opportunities for these young guys. And he has to also understand that his job as a coach goes way beyond setting up the team. His job as a coach is also to manage these kids in terms of psychologically manage them, rhetorically manage them. I can barely recall any interview where he went out in public and said something of praise about these young guys, publicly defending them. I think rather he took one approach only, and I question if maybe he knows only one approach, which is more or less tough love. I remember interviews where he explicitly said dribbling needs to do better, he has to show more. Of course, it's a common sense thing. Yes, when you don't play, there's always a reason you're also part of the problem. But I think with such young players, that approach is one that where the coach is very comfortable and one I didn't like at all. So I want to see something different in Moyes' rhetoric, and I want to see some evidence that he is psychologically supporting these guys, not just giving them the tough coach love, basically saying, impress me. No, I think we need more structured guidance of our young players now. We can't expect them to uh, have all the pressure on them, is my personal opinion. It's like we're not in 20th century anymore. I think like some structured integration of young players is a skill a good coach or a good coaching staff shall have. What I mean by that, we want these young guys when they come on to play freely. We want them to feel like they can achieve great things. We want them to fear to play confidently. So for that, they need to be thrown in an environment where they can make mistakes, where they can take risks, where they won't be punished if they make a mistake. Has that been the case? No, absolutely not. First of all, they haven't been given any opportunities at all, more or less. Dibling had less than 400 minutes, Asnu had 0 minutes. And the few times they played, immediately substituted or not followed up by another nomination, right? And so next season, and especially now in preseason, I want Moyes to give these guys meaningful minutes in preseason for sure, because there's nothing to lose. And then be more brave and also give young players meaningful minutes in the Premier League. Not 5 minutes in the end when the game is done, but give them meaningful minutes, and then ideally put them in situations where they can play like a young player is supposed to be able to play. Don't plug them in to do a job, right? They are not veterans who should be treated like veterans. They shouldn't come in and be asked to, I don't know, only in a way be uh, I don't know, fulfill a tactical plan, run their hearts out. No, they should be given a situation where they get a chance to show what they're about. Put the right support around them. And then the last point, I think, of course, is on Dibling himself. He has to, of course, find a way to show the manager and us fans more than what he's shown so far. Now, based on my hypothesis, things won't be easier for him now in terms of the tactical setup. He will probably play, if he plays, with Jake O'Brien as his support, or a no, Patterson was at the World Cup. I don't even know if he's available. So you're probably going to play with O'Brien. So what can he practically do then? I think he should take the approach, have a positive mindset, and have a mindset of I want to show that I'm ready no matter what. Do maybe things in this preseason that you are naturally not so comfortable with. Run extra hard. Be vocal on the bench. Maybe take a few set pieces. And when you have the chance, obviously be brave and try to also make it happen on the outside more. I would recommend him like to go to start with simple things, just grow into the game naturally, but then of course play in a fearless way and keep a rigorously positive mindset, even if things do not pan out immediately. But I want him to find ways to show everyone I'm ready. I really want this, and I have no more desire than be a regular feature of Everton's starting 11, or at least a squad as a substitute next season. Just be a presence. Show the manager that you really, really want this. That's what I wish. So, what I expect tomorrow, I expect Dibling to be in the starting 11. And I would wish that we actually go for it and start with George on the left and Dibling on the right. If Moyes tomorrow puts in Dwight McNeil, that will be my first mini meltdown of the season. I want to see George and Dibling tomorrow, and that will be damn exciting. Imagine that, George and Dibling, two super exciting young wingers. That will be definitely a game I tune into, and who knows, that will be really exciting. And I hope, we're always a little bit pessimistic with Moyes whenever it comes to bravery and being creative, but I hope he will actually go for it due to the lack of options. Okay, now you tell me, what do you expect? What do you expect from Dibling this season? What do you think he has to do, but also what has to happen from the club side for him to have a better season? What do you want to see from him in preseason? Next player I'm going to cover will be Tyreek George. Stay tuned, and yeah, see you next time. Adios.